Hello, this is Craig from bitbox.co.uk. This is the final part of our look at the Codex Supplement Traitor Legions. And that sort of ends our little mini-series of looking at the Wrath of Magnus and Traitor Legions book. So there's been lots of look at Chaos Space Marines recently. They are my favourite army, they were my first army. I think I mentioned in the last video that my first ever army was the Night Lords, and we looked at them with a few other legions in the last video. In this video we are looking at, if I remember from the top of my head, in no particular order, we have the Death Guard, World Eaters, Word Bearers, and Emperor's Children. Of course, Thousand Sons we looked at in the Wrath of Magnus Part 1, so if you want to see what their detachments and artifacts etc. are like, you can look at that video. So, let's find our page. And actually, we are just past the Night Lords. So we are on to the Word Bearers. Now I feel a bit sorry for the Word Bearers. They don't get, from what I've heard, they're not massively great. But I haven't actually read through their warlord traits or artifacts yet, so this will be new for me as well. So like most undivided, they cannot include any unique units. Any units that already have a Mark of Chaos cannot be taken, although units that have the option to take a Mark of Chaos as an upgrade can do so. So a bit differently to other legions, some of the undivided legions can't take any marks at all. But these guys, they can give Chaos marks just to regular Chaos Space Marines, whatever other units can take them. So that's interesting, but they can't take Khorne Berserkers, Noise Marines, Thousand Sons, and Plague Marines, so that's slightly different. Again, all units must have Veterans of a Long War, and they can get it at no additional cost. And then Psykers and Demons of Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Amesh can take psychic powers from their respective disciplines. Okay, so their special rules are the Unholy Pact. Essentially, I'll just silence my phone. Possessed are troops, which is a bit, possessed aren't great. We all know that. But if you want possessed heavy force, you could go with Word Bearers. I suppose it's I suppose it's fluffy. I don't really know too much about their fluff too much, but I think yeah, possessed as troops. I think it makes a bit of sense. In addition, Psykers from their detachment harness warp charge points on a free pass when attempting to manifest conjuration psychic powers from demonology. So yeah, because essentially, fluff-wise, I do know that they do sort of favour taking a lot of demons. Now, there's no really rules in here for sort of having demons with them. Of course, you can ally them in as normal. But it's nice that it makes it a bit easier for them to summon demons, so that's a bit fluffy, that's quite nice. All units with Veterans of a Long War reroll failed to hit rolls in every round of close combat when attacking Ultramarine units. And Ultramarines have the Hatred Word Bearers rule. So again, this is similar to Iron Warriors with the Imperial Fists. It's a bit fluffy, so yeah, it's quite nice. Friendly Word Bearer units within 6 inches of any Word Bearer's Dark Apostles have the Zealot special rule. And then they can take artifacts and warlord traits from these tables. So the warlord traits are as follows. We have Unholy Firebrand. Your warlord has the Zealot special rule, and if he already has the Zealot special rule, he and any models affected by his Zealot special rule can reroll all failed to hit rolls in every round of close combat and not just the first. So that's pretty nice if you're quite combat heavy. You got a Dark Apostle in there, you got the Profane Zeal rule, what gives units within 6 inches Zealot, so that could make them quite nice in close combat. Next we have Latent Powers. Your warlord has the Psycho Mastery level 1 special rule, and can generate powers from the Demonology Malefic discipline. If he is already a Psycho, you can add 1 to his Mastery level. So that's not too bad. Plus 1 to your Mastery level is a 25-point upgrade usually, so it's not too bad. Next we have the Voice of Lorgar. At the start of each of your turns, pick one Pick one of the following special rules to bestow upon a single unit from the Word Bearer's detachment or formation that is within 12 inches of your Warlord. And you can either give them Counterattack, Fearless, Furious Charge, or Relentless. The unit gains that special rule until the start of your next turn. So that's actually really nice as well. You can do that at the start of each turn, and you can choose a different rule, or you can choose the same one. So, you know, that's actually really nice. I quite like that. Your Warlord has Adamantium, Will, and Fearless. Next is Nexus of God. If your Warlord or a friendly model within 12 inches of him earns a roll on the Chaos Boon table, you can add 1 or subtract 1 from the second dice of your d6 roll, to a maximum of 6 and a minimum of 1. So that could come in handy. It's very rare that comes up. We don't get a lot of rolls on the Boon table usually. Your Warlord can immediately roll on the Chaos Boon table, reroll on any results of 11 to 22, which I believe is the one that does nothing. So that's not too bad. Quentrison says you can immediately make a roll. I assume that's at the beginning of a battle. It doesn't actually say, it just says immediately. So I'm assuming that's just straight after you roll for your Warlord trait. But it doesn't say anything. I will just double check the Boon table. I've got the book here. Okay, so 11 to 22 is the Unholy Offering and the Spawn Hood. So that's pretty nice. So you can't just turn yourself into a spawn straight off the bat. But you can actually use it to turn into a Demon Prince if you're that lucky, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so we have the artifacts, and we have the Skull of Monarchia. The bearer and his unit can reroll all failed hit rolls in close combat when attacking armies that contain any models from the armies of the Imperium. In addition, the bearer and his unit can reroll all failed to wound rolls and when attacking units that contain any Ultramarines. So if you come up against Ultramarines, then, you know, very handy. 15 points, not too bad. Next we have the Crown of the Blasphemer. That essentially gives you a 4+ invulnerable save plus Adamantium Will and Fear, and that's 30 points. Adamantium Will does pop up quite a lot in this book, I've noticed. I think we'll see more of it with the World Eaters as well. Next we have the Malefic Tome. The bearer knows 1 additional power from Demonology Malefic Discipline. That's 10 points and it's for Psychers only, so if you're building your list around there, and you know, if you're generating warp charge points on a 3+ when doing conjurations from that tree, it could, you know, could be quite nice to give to one of your Psychers. Next we have the Scripts of Erebus. Once per game, at the start of either your or your opponent's psychic phase, the bearer can read from the Scripts of Erebus to immediately generate an additional d6 warp charge points. So again, that's not too bad. Next we have the Baleful Icon. Units attempting to charge the bearer of the Baleful Icon or the unit he is with must reroll successful charge rolls. And if still successful, models in the charging unit do not gain any bonus attacks from charging. That's actually quite nice. It's only 15 points. If you don't want people charging you, it's quite handy. They don't get the +1 attack as well, so essentially you've got counter attack as well. So not counter attack. Sorry. No, like defensive grenades. Is it like what Plague Marines have, where people don't get the +1? Counter attack is when you get the +1. I do know the rules, I swear. Not like Pete. I couldn't see that from my videos, mind you. Okay, let's move on. Lastly, we have the Cursed Crozius. So, always expected to see a Crozius artifact in here. It's +2 strength, it's AP 3. It's concussive, and it has the Bane of Men special rule, which gives you preferred enemy against armies of the Imperium. So, yeah, a lot to sort of suggest that word bearers really, really hate the Imperium, and especially the Ultramarines. So, yeah, very nice and fluffy. So next we have their detachment, and as well as the Chaos Warband, the Lost and the Damned, as you'd probably expect, is also a core choice. And that's for one, if you remember from the first video, where we had a Dark Apostle and Cultists. So the command benefits, of course, we always have rerolled reroll Warlord traits. Then we have Dark Crusaders, so all non-vehicle units have the Crusader special rule. And then lastly we have the Eightfold Path. At the start of each of your turns, pick one character from this detachment and roll on the Chaos Boon table for them. Each character can only benefit from this rule once, though they may still earn further Chaos Boon rolls as normal. So that's pretty nice. Every character can have a different, just have a free roll on the boon table each turn. And then lastly we have the tactical objectives. So 1 victory point if a friendly unit that included one or more models with Zealot special rule made a successful charge. 1 victory point at the end of a turn, at least one enemy unit was completely destroyed by a unit with the Demon special rule during the assault phase. Score 1 victory point at the end of your turn if you killed at least one enemy character. D3 victory points if you successfully cast a Conjuration power from the Demonology Malefic discipline. D3 victory points at the end of your turn if you control an objective marker that was controlled by your opponent at the start of the last turn. And then lastly, 1 victory point at the end of your turn if you rolled any result on the Chaos Boon table. If you rolled 3 or more results on the Boon table, you score D3 victory points. And you score D3 plus 3 victory points if you rolled 6 or more results. In any case, do not count any unworthy offering results. So only successful rolls on the Boon table count. And then here we have like Colonists, Possessed, and Demon Prince fighting, of course, some Ultramarines. So yeah, Word Bearers are not too bad. They feel quite fluffy, but armies focusing around Apostles and Dark Apostles, Cultists and Possessed probably aren't gonna set the world alight. So next we have the World Eaters, one of my favourite legions, and a lot of people I think favour World Eaters. So they cannot include any unique units other than Khan the Betrayer. They cannot include any Psykers, which makes perfect sense. Units that can take the Mark of Khorne must do so. Units with a Mark of Khorne, units with a Mark of Chaos other than the Mark of Khorne cannot be taken. Units must also be upgraded to take Veterans of a Long War, and all Demon Princes must have the Demon of Khorne special rule. So, you know, we're going to see in the next few legions that their restrictions just makes sense. Obviously, World Eaters are going to be everything. Everything's going to be Khorne. Death Guard to be Nurgle, etc., etc. Okay, and they do have special rules, and of course, Khorne Berserkers are your troop choice. Also, any units with Veteran of a Long War gain Adamantium Will, which I think is really nice as well, and really fluffy for them. Also, units with Veterans of a Long War have Fearless and Furious Charge special rules, which again is really nice. And then we just have artifacts and warlord traits. So the warlord traits are: the warlord has a Rampage special rule. 2 is each time your warlord could roll on the Chaos Boon table, you may instead choose to increase his attacks characteristic by 1. I really like that actually. Very fluffy for Khorne. At the end of your opponent's charge subphase, you can declare a charge with your warlord and his unit, so long as the enemy unit that you attempt to charge is locked in combat. Your warlord and his unit count as charging for all rules purposes. It's pretty good. Quite circumstantial, but it's quite good. Your warlord can reroll all failed to hit and wound rolls when fighting in a challenge. Whilst locked in combat, your warlord has Eternal Warrior and Feel No Pain. That's probably my favourite one. When determining the charge range of your warlord and any friendly units with the Mark of Khorne within 8 inches of him, at the start of a charge subphase, roll 3 dice and pick the 2 highest results. So that's quite nice as well. So of course, very close combat orientated. Okay, and the artifacts. Next, I quite like some of the artifacts. You may, if you've been playing this game long enough, you may recognise some of these names. So we have the Talisman of the Burning Blood. Add 3 inches to the maximum move distances of the bearer and all models in his unit each time they move in the movement phase, run in the shooting phase, and charge in the assault phase. So it's 25 points, but it will make your warlord and his unit very quick. Really, really nice. And to have a free interest in the movement phase as well, I think. That's really good. Next, we have the Berserker Glaive. It's a demon weapon. It's +2 strength, AP 3, and it has the Epitome of Rage special rule. The bearer gains Feel No Pain, and it will not die, but he loses the Independent Character special rule. So if you're planning on running your warlord on his own, or he's a demon prince or something, then that could be quite handy. And we have the Brass Collar of Borgaster. When making Deny the Witch test, the bearer and his unit always nullify warp charge points on rolls of 4+, although this cannot be modified in any means. In addition, if the power is successfully nullified, the casting Psyker immediately suffers perils for warp. So if you're coming up against a lot of Psykers, that could be quite good. Next, it's quite an interesting artifact. We have Gorefather. So for those who don't know the fluff, Angron, the Primarch of the World Eaters, had 2 weapons. He had Gorefather and Gorechild, and Gorechild is the axe that Khana Betrayer carries around, and Gorefather is the other axe, and you can now give that to one of your heroes, so that's really cool. And we have Gorefather and Gorechild now in play. And Gorefather is 30 points, there's +2 strength, AP 2. It is unwieldy, unfortunately, but it also has Armor Bane and Murderous Strike, which is essentially any wound rolls of 6 have instant death, and it's also two-handed. Next we have the Crimson Killer, which is an ornate pistol. It's strength 7, AP 2, 12 inches, and it has the Soul Blaze. Excuse me, it has the Soul Blaze special rule. So it doesn't get hot like a plasma pistol. And it's Soul Blaze instead, so 20 points. That's not too bad actually, quite like that. And then lastly we have Blood Feeder. This is another melee weapon. +1 strength, AP 2. Unwieldy. It's a specialist weapon, and it has the Whirlwind of Blood special rule. So when using the Blood Feeder in close combat, the bearer's attack characteristic is not used. Instead, he makes 2d6 attacks, and you have to roll each time you use the weapon. However, each roll of 1, you immediately suffer a wound with no armor saves allowed. So, it's 30 points. It's a really good weapon. It could be absolutely devastating, and if you avoid rolling them 1s, you roll high with your attacks, you could have a very deadly close combat monster. So that's really nice actually. Yeah, really nice weapon. Risky, but it could really do some damage. So yeah, I really like the artifacts for the World Eaters. So next we have their detachment, and of course the Maelstrom of Gore, which was 4 to 8 units of Khorne Berserker plus the Chaos Lord or Khan. And then we have the Chaos Warband. There are your core choices. Your command benefits, you can reroll Warlord traits, and then you have Blood Mad. After both sides have deployed, including infiltrators, but before the first player begins their first turn, all non-vehicle units comprised entirely of models from this detachment can immediately make a 2d6 move, which you roll separately for each unit. In addition, non-vehicle units and walkers from this attachment can reroll any failed charge rolls they make during the battle. So that's really nice. Just rerolling failed charge rolls makes it quite nice and fluffy, and to have that extra 2d6 movement before the game starts could be really handy. That could help some faster units charge earlier in the game. So yeah, again, they feel very fluffy, and I really like that. So next we just have their tactical objectives. So first one, if you successfully make a Deny the Witch roll, you score a victory point. 1 victory point at the end of your turn if you control an objective marker that 1 victory point at the end of your turn if at least one enemy unit that is controlling an objective marker was completely destroyed. 1 victory point at the end of your turn if at least 3 of your units made successful charges. Score 1 victory point at the end of your turn if any of your characters slew an opponent in a challenge during your turn. D3 victory points instead if you killed your enemy warlord in a challenge. 1 victory point at the end of your turn if at least one unit, friend or foe, was completely destroyed during your turn. And D3 victory points instead of at least one enemy unit and at least one friendly unit were both destroyed from your turn. Oh, that one's actually they've actually got really, some of these have actually got quite cool names. The last one was Skull Throne. Sorry, no, the last one was Blood for Blood God, and before that was Skull for Skull Throne. And the last one's Kill, Maim, Burn. 1 victory point at the end of your turn for each enemy unit that was completely destroyed during the assault phase, up to a maximum of 6 victory points. So yeah, actually quite good at tactical objectives as well. So next is 1,000 Suns, and we covered these in the Wrath of Magnus Part 1. Everything's exactly the same. The Discipline of Tzeentch we covered in Wrath of Magnus Part 2, as well as the other psychic powers that are at the back of this book. So you can check that out if you want to look at them. But I'm going to go straight in with the Forces of the Death Guard. So I'm actually quite a big Nurgle player these days. Played them quite a lot in 5th edition, and basically been playing them sort of quite a bit since. As you may have seen in our Path to Glory campaign and in Tainting of Odessa's campaign, I played Death Guard quite a bit in them 2 campaigns, which you can find on this channel. So they can't include any other unique units other than Typhus, and all units that can take the mark of Nurgle must do so. Interestingly, with these as well, and the marks aren't free, so that's worth bearing in mind. And you cannot take any units with any other mark of Chaos apart from Nurgle. Veterans of a Long War, everyone must be upgraded to have it, although they get it for free. Demon Princes must have Demon of Nurgle, and Psykers must use the Discipline of Nurgle power. Psykers must generate all their powers from the Discipline of Nurgle. There we go. I actually find them things a bit weak, really. There's a bit about sorcerers later on, saying that they can take some of the other powers in the back of the book, because in the back of the book there's like 4 other disciplines, and we looked at them in the Wrath of Magnus Part 2 book, and some of them have some really nice powers actually, and if you can't take them with some of these armies, then it's a bit of a shame really, but that said, it keeps them fluffy. Okay, so all units that have Veterans of the Long War have Fearless and Feel No Pain, but they reduce their initiative by 1. So essentially they're almost Plague Marines, and Typhus and units of Plague Marines are unaffected by this. Also, anything with Veterans of the Long War have the Relentless special rule, which is really nice. Really, really nice. So again, more reasons to maybe take Chaos Space Marines, banging heavy weapons, and they got Relentless, and yeah, I think even Havocs can take maps of Chaos, can't they? So yeah, that's so nice, isn't it? Having Relentless. Plague Marines are troop choices, and then you can take artifacts and warlord traits from here. So yes, let's get straight into it. So the first warlord trait is add 1 to your Feel No Pain rolls. Really nice. 2, your warlord has the It Will Not Die special rule. 3, your warlord and all friendly units from the Death Guard formation or detachment that are within 7 inches of your warlord at the start of the fight subphase are infected with a contagious plague until the end of the phase. All enemy units locked in combat with any units affected in this manner suffer a D6 Strength 1 AP4 hits with a poisoned 4+ special rule at the initiative 10 step. So that could come in handy. Next we have add 1 to your warlord's wounds characteristic. Your warlord has Eternal Warrior. And then lastly, the effect of poison special rule on any weapon wielded by your warlord and any models in his unit is improved by 1 to a maximum of 2+. So that's also really nice. So yeah, really nice warlord traits actually. And if you can reroll on the table by taking a detachment, I think you've probably got a good chance of getting a very good one. So yeah, a really strong warlord trait table. We don't say that very often. So next we have the artifacts, and the first one is the Pus Cleaver. It's a melee weapon. It's only 10 points, and it's poison 2+. If you've got 10 points spare and you have no artifacts on you on a character, then not bad for 10 points really. I mean, it's only strength user and AP dash, but poison 2+, not to be sniffed at. Next we have the Plague Skull of Galicia. So once per game, instead of firing his weapon, the bearer of the Plague Skull can choose to make a shooting attack, which uses a following profile below. So it's 8 inches, assault 1 large blast, 1 use only, and it's poison 2+, and there's no AP on that. But against some really sort of weak armoured stuff, you know, it could kill quite a nice horde. Next we have the Pandemic Staff. So this replaces a melee weapon, although you can shoot it as a shooting weapon as well instead of firing normally, and that's a template, poison 2+, AP 5. And in combat it's +2 strength, AP 4, concussive, and also with poison 2+. So a lot of poison, as you'd probably expect from the Death Guard. Next we have Dolores Nell. So all friendly Death Guard units within 14 inches of the bearer at the start of the fight subphase have the Fear special rule. In addition, enemy units taking a Fear test against the affected unit must do so on 3d6 instead of 2d6. You guys probably know my thoughts on Fear by now. 25 points. I don't see anyone taking that. I don't. But, you know, it's circumstantial, isn't it? If you're against an army, mass horde, don't ignore Fear. That could be useful. Next we have the Poxwalker Hive. At the start of each of your turns, pick a friendly unit of Chaos Cultists within 7 inches to infect with the Poxwalker virus. For the rest of the game, that unit of Chaos Cultists cannot run or make shooting attacks, but they gain the Fearless and Feel No Pain special rule. In addition, at the start of each of your following turns, return D3 slain models to every friendly unit infected Chaos Cultists that are within 7 inches of the bearer. Any model returned in this manner that cannot be placed within unit currency are lost. So essentially, at the start of each turn, you're basically turning cultists into plague zombies. So that's pretty cool. 20 points. If you've got a lot of cultists and you're not taking plague zombies and you want to do that, then it's fun. And lastly, we have Plaguebringer. This is a demon weapon. It's user strength, AP 3, and it's poison 4+. Nothing else to say about that. 35 points. So next we have their detachment, and the Plague Colony, as you would expect, is a core choice, alongside the Chaos Warband as always. You can reroll Warlord traits. Units from this detachment can reroll Feel No Pain results of 1. That's really good. And I think Death Guard are probably one of the strongest of the legions in here. They're certainly the most survivable. If an enemy unit targets a unit from this detachment that is 18 inches or more away, the target has the Stealth special rule while their attack is resolved. So again, very nice. Very nice indeed. So yeah, I really like the Death Guard, and it'll be very interesting to do a few games with them for sure. Okay, so we have the Death Guard tactical objectives. Score 1 victory point at the end of your turn if at least 3 of your units are within your opponent's table half. This tactical objective is achieved if you make at least 7 Feel No Pain rolls in any single phase. Score 1 victory point at the end of your turn if at least 1 enemy unit was completely destroyed by a weapon or psychic power that had the poison special rule. When this tactical objective is generated, nominate 1 of your Death Guard characters, score 1 victory point at the end of your game if this character is still alive and on the table. Score D3 victory points at the end of your turn if you control exactly 3 objective markers, no more, no less. And then lastly, sorry, I'm just getting Monty Python Holy Grail flashbacks now. Score 1 victory point at the end of your turn if at least 7 enemy models were slain during your turn. If at least 14 enemy models were slain during your turn, score D3 victory points instead, and score D3 plus 3 victory points if at least 21 enemy models were slain during your turn. I'm going to be laughing at that for a while. Okay, so we're going to look at the Nurgle psychic powers. So there's 6 and the Primaris now, rather than just 3 and the Primaris. So the Primaris is Nurgle's Rot, which is Strength 2, AP 5, Assault D6 plus 1, but it's Poisoned 4 plus, and it's a 6-inch range. And that's a Nova power. Next we have Weapon Virus. It's a malediction that targets a single enemy unit within 24 inches. All of the target's unit's ranged weapons have the Gets Hot special rule. Then we have Fleshy Abundance, which is a blessing that targets a single friendly model within 14 inches of a Psyker. That model immediately regains D3 wounds that is lost earlier in the battle. Next we have the Blades of Putrefaction, which is a blessing, again with a range of 14 inches. So yeah, but obviously Nurgle's number is 7, so 7, 14, they pop up quite a lot. The melee weapons of all models in the target unit have the Poison 4 plus special rule while this power is in effect. Any models that already have the Poison special rule instead have the Poison 2 plus special rule. So that's actually a really nice one to get for your Plague Marines. Wounded None 2s in combat. Yeah, I like that. That's nice. Next we have Gift of Contagion, which is a malediction that affects a single enemy unit within 48 inches, and you roll on the table below, and that's what effect they suffer with. So they suffer -1 attack and the Shrouded special rule on a 1. On a 2, they have -1 strength and may not run, and on a 3, they have -1 strength and toughness. Next we have Plague Wind, which is a Witchfire power. It has no effect on vehicles. It's Assault 1, Large Blast, Poison 4 plus, 12-inch ranges, and AP 2. I do quite like Plague Wind. And then lastly it's Curse of the Leper. This is a blessing if it targets a friendly unit, or it's a malediction if it targets an enemy unit. In either case, it must target a single unit within 21 inches of the Psyker. So on friendly units, it adds 1 to their strength and toughness, and if used on an enemy unit, it reduces their strength and toughness by 1 while the power is in effect. So that's really nice. And Warp Charge 2, but you know, if you're giving your Plague Marines toughness 6, or your Plague Marines on bikes, I think they get, are they already toughness 6? So you can make them toughness 7. Yeah. Yeah, or you could do it to your Nurgle spawn, make them toughness 7. Yeah, really nice, isn't it? Really nice. Okay, and lastly, I believe, because we just have psychic powers after this. Yeah, lastly, we are looking at the Emperor's Children. First things first, I am going to say I'm disappointed that we haven't got the old classic style of Emperor's Children where you can just give sonic weapons to everything. I don't believe that is the case. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. I'd quite like Blastmaster Havocs. But anyway, maybe they'll get a book like the Thousand Suns did one day and we'll see more unique units. But in the meantime, they cannot include any unique units other than Lucius the Eternal. Units that can take the Mark of Slaanesh must do so. Units with a Mark of Chaos other than the Mark of Slaanesh cannot be taken. All units that can do so must be upgraded to Veterans of the Long War at no additional point cost. Any Demon Princes must have the Demon of Slaanesh special rule. Psychers from this detachment can choose to generate all of their psychic powers from the Discipline of Slaanesh. And they all gain the following special rules. So, units that have the Veterans of the Long War special rule all gain Fearless and Feel No Pain 6+. Units with the Icon of Excess instead have Fearless and Feel No Pain 4+. In addition, if a model with the Veterans of the Long War special rule is slain in the fight subphase before it made any attacks that phase, it can make a single attack at the end of a current initiative step before being removed as a casualty. So that's quite nice. I think Noise Marines have like +1 initiative, and I think the Merc or Slanesh gives you +1 initiative, so a lot of cases you will be attacking first anyway, but that's still nice for them rare occasions where you're not. Noise Marines are troop choices, as we would expect. And then we move into the Warlord traits and the artifacts. So, Warlord traits, we have Eternal Warrior. Add 2 to your initiative characteristic. Add 1 to the Feel No Pain rolls of your Warlord Hunter's unit. Your Warlord has Fear, and any unit locked in combat with your Warlord must take Fear test on 3d6 instead of 2d6. Your Warlord gains 1 attack each time he loses a wound. However, if he recovers wounds, his attacks are reduced accordingly. And that's called Stimulated by Pain. I quite like that. An Idol of Mindless Devotion. Your Warlord can choose to automatically pass any Lookout Sir's rolls he is required to make instead of rolling. If your Warlord is a Demon Prince, you can re-roll this result. So, yeah, apart from maybe that one and the Fear one, they're all the rest are pretty good, actually. So lastly, we have the artifacts of the Emperor's Children. Well, not lastly, sorry, but next. Make D3 rolls on the combat drugs table, and we'll see what that is in a minute. This is 25 points. Oh, excuse me. All effects are cumulative, or cumulative. I can't pronounce words. Including with the combat drugs command benefit should the bearer be part of the Rapture Battalion, which we'll see on the next page. Anyway, next we have the Shriek Wave, 20 points. Once per game you can make a special shooting attack with the following profile. So it's 12-inch range, Strength 8, AP 2, Assault D6, and it has the Mental Trauma special rule. So before making this attack, the target unit must first take a leadership test. If failed, you can reroll all fail to wound rolls for this attack. So not too bad, but you'll probably win on 2s. Next we have the Soul Snare Lash. It replaces one of the bearer's melee weapons, and it can also be used in the shooting phase. So in the shooting phase it is Assault 2, 6-inch range, Strength 4, AP 5, and it has the Soul Snare special rule. Any wound rolls of 6 are resolved to AP 2 with instant death. Really nice. And in Assault it's just AP 5 with that Soul Snare special rule as well. Not bad for 20 points though. So next we have the Endless Grin. The bearer of the Endless Grin has the Fear special rule. Enemy units must reduce their leadership by 1 while within 6 inches of the bearer. Not really great, but it's 10 points, and the way I can just picture this being modelled is essentially just the Joker out of Batman, isn't it? So yeah. Again, anytime fear gets mentioned, I just it's not an option for me. Next we have the Bolts of Ecstatic Vexation. These can be fired from any bolt gun, bolt pistol, or bolt gun that's part of a combi weapon that the bearer is equipped with. I assume that might mean combi bolters as well. Anyway, the weapons profile gains the Blast, Ignores, Covers, and Pin special rule. 15 points, not too bad, not too bad. Next is their demon weapon, which is the Bliss Giver. So it replaces one of the bearer's melee weapons. It's AP 3, and it has the Catonic Trance special rule. Any model that suffers 1 or more unsaved wounds from a Bliss Giver must immediately pass a leadership test for each wound suffered or be removed from play as a casualty. So very good against multi-wound models indeed. That's for each wound, so if you take a couple of wounds off them, they must pass 2 leadership tests or they are removed, so I like that. I do like that. Next up we have their detachment. So they can obviously, of course, re-roll Warlord traits. The Cacophony is a core choice, as you'd expect. And then they have the Combat Drug special rule, so this is what I mentioned earlier. So after deployment, roll a dice and consult the following table to see what effects the combat drugs have on the characteristic profiles of all non-vehicle units from this attachment during the duration of the game. So you only roll on it once, and then you choose either plus, and then you get +1 weapon skill, +1 ballistic skill, +1 initiative, +1 strength, +1 toughness, and +1 attacks. And if we just go back to the Intoxicator Elixir, you basically get the D3 rolls on that table. So yeah, I think what it's saying as well is you get D3 rolls in addition to that. So actually, you know, if you were to get 3 rolls and do them, and I think they stack on top of each other as well. So yeah, that could really really boost your army. I think I'm reading that correct. Yeah. So if you don't want to take this battalion and you still want to do combat drugs, you can give that artifact to your warlord for 25 points. Which I think. Oh no, that only gives it to him. Sorry, that's okay. Yeah, that only gives it to him on top of these. So yeah, if you want him to take the combat drugs, you can, and then here you will also benefit from these. So yeah, yeah, you could make a really badass warlord out of that. He could end up being really good. Okay, so next are the tactical objectives, and then we'll lastly just look at their psychic powers, and we are done. So, 1 victory point at the end of your turn if you completely destroyed any enemy units using Noise Marine sonic weapons. Score 1 victory point at the end of your turn if you killed at least 1 enemy character in a challenge. Score 1 victory point at the end of your turn if you completely destroyed an enemy unit that's fallen back. Score 1 victory point at the end of your turn each time your opponent fails a morale, pin, or fear test, up to a maximum of 3. When this tactical objective is generated, your opponent must choose an objective marker. Score D3 victory points at the end of your turn if you control that objective marker that your opponent chose. That'd be quite a difficult one to get, I should imagine. Score D3 victory points at the end of your turn if your opponent controls no objective markers. Score D3 plus 3 if instead if you control all 6. So again, a very, very hard one to achieve. And then lastly, we shall look at their psychic disciplines. So we have Sensory Overload as a Witchfire power, which is Strength 4, AP 4, 24 inches, Assault 4, Blind, Concussive, and Pinning. Then we have Hysterical Friendly, which is a blessing that targets a single friendly non-vehicle unit within 12 inches. So you roll on the table below and see what benefit you get. So it's +1 initiative, +1 strength, or +1 attack. So again, that with combat drugs and, you know, all sorts, you could really buff up units or characters in this army. So you know, it'd be interesting to try these out sometimes, see what you can actually achieve with them. Delightful Agonies is a blessing with a range of 12 inches. While this power is in effect, all models in the target unit have a Feel No Pain 4+. Sympathy of Pain is a malediction that targets a single enemy unit within 24 inches. Whilst this power is in effect, that unit has a -1 weapon skill and ballistic skill. Furthermore, any attacks from the sonic weaponry that hit the target unit whilst this power is in effect are resolved at +1 strength. Note that the effects of more than one Sympathy of Pain are cumulative, so you can stack them as well. And there's only Warp Drive 1 as well. So next we have Sonic Shockwave, which is a Nova power. 9 inches, Strength 5, AP 4, Assault D6, Ignore, Cover, and Pinning. And then we have Oral Onslaught, which is a beam. 18 inches, Strength 8, AP 2, Assault 1, Mental Anguish. Each affected enemy unit must first take a leadership test. If failed, you can reroll all failed to win rolls made for this attack. So similar to that artifact. Pretty nice. Sort of gives you something extra against vehicles. It's Warp Charge 2. And then we have the Apoplectic Glee, which is a Witchfire power. Warp Charge 2 again. It's range 24 inches. Strength Special, which we'll see why in a minute. Assault 1, Ecstasy, Ignores Cover, and Ecstasy. You do not roll to wound as normal. Instead, every non-vehicle model in this target unit takes a hit at its own unmodified strength. So I'm very good against stuff with high strength. So this is where things get a little bit interesting. Here we have a little bit about sorcerers. It says, any psyker with the Chaos Space Marines faction can generate their psychic powers from the Sinistrum, Heretic, Ectomancy, and Geomortis disciplines, in addition to any other disciplines they have access to. Now, I don't know if this overwrites what's given in the Legion special rules or not. My first instinct would be no, and that would be disappointing. But unless you had taken one of the 4 God-related legions, then yeah, these are really good and well worth taking. If you can take these in addition to your God-specific ones for the God-specific legions, I think that'd be fantastic. But as the way I'm reading it, I don't think this overwrites the rules back there. If you want to look through these 4 disciplines, I did mention them in the Wrath of Magnus Part 2 video towards the end. And then lastly, we just have the armory of ranged weapons and melee weapons. It's not for everything, just a few unique ones. And that is that. So, to summarise, a fantastic book for any Chaos Space Marine player. I will point out it's not a very good book if your name is Huron, Blackheart or Fabius Bile. As far as I'm aware, there's actually no way you can take them 2 characters in any of these legions, interestingly. I think Huron, he pops up in Crimson Slaughter, don't he? So, but as for Fabius Bile, or Fabius Bile, however you wish to pronounce his name, I hope we'll see something special for him in the future. Because unless, if you're taking a Chaos Legion, you now suddenly just cannot take them. Because you can only have the unique characters that they list, if you can take any. So that's an interesting thing. Not massively disappointing, mind you, as I don't take either of them very rarely. However, you know, I'm kind of hoping Fabius Bile will pop up later in another supplement and he'll have a nice new model, because fluff-wise, he's one of my favourite characters. Just rules-wise, just not so much, but... So yeah, but forgetting about them, I think this is a book that Chaos players have been waiting for years, or something similar. The Sonic Weaponry thing, I would like to have seen Favourite Children to make them really fluffy. I remember back in the day you could give Sonic Blasters to Terminators, and Dreadnoughts could have twin-linked ones or a Blastmaster, and, you know, imagine just putting Blastmasters on Land Raiders and Predators and stuff. There's so much you could do with Sonic Weaponry and have a full Sonic Weaponry army. And I think if they got a supplement similar to what the Thousand Suns got in Wrath of Magnus, what allowed you to do that, I think I would certainly be collecting a very Slaanesh heavy-themed army. But that's just a personal thing for me that I miss. Maybe I'm just sort of pining over some of the old rules. I think a lot of people are from the legendary 3.5 Codex, which I'm sure a lot of people are sick to death of hearing about. But this is as close as we've ever been to that, and it makes armies feel fluffy. It gives them boosts for being fluffy, and most of them seem very viable without being overpowered. I think my favourites are definitely Night Lords, Death Guard, and Wild Eaters. Although that could just be me being biased because they're probably my favourite 3 legions anyway. I think Thousand Suns, from what we've seen in Wrath of Magnus, is quite strong as well. So yeah, this really changed the landscape for Chaos Space Marine players. And hopefully, if the rumoured 8th edition, when that drops, that doesn't affect us too much. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed these videos. I know in the first video, and maybe even in the other 2, I may not have been coming across clear enough. My throat is still a little bit croaky, as you guys could maybe hear. And yeah, I do get a bit tongue-tied sometimes reading through all this stuff. And yeah, the last few days I've spent a lot of time talking to a camera and with a croaky voice. So, but either way, I hope you guys are enjoying these videos, and I'll probably put out more like this in the future if we get more supplements and stuff. Because I do enjoy doing them, and you know, I'm going to read through them all anyway, so why not just film it as I read it. So yeah, please give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to this channel if you're enjoying the content and you want to see more, and you want to keep up to date with all that. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate everyone who watches all our videos and everyone who comments and likes. Thank you so much. You do really make it worthwhile, and I enjoy every video I make on this channel. So long may it continue, and long may you guys keep watching, and hopefully we'll get lots of new viewers in the future as well. So yeah, that's all what's left to say. Thank you again, and I will see you all in the next video.